Hello there, Liam here for RPG Site, and I don't know about you, but last Thursday I got pretty excited. After months and months of rumours, speculation, and dreaming about the NX, Nintendo finally announced their brand new hardware, Nintendo Switch. A brand new piece of hardware that might change the way we play games, especially at a portability level. Understandably, quite a few of us here on the team at RPG Site are excited at the prospect of Nintendo's new system, and were impressed by Nintendo's trailer. Nintendo's message with the Switch was very clear, and unlike previous console announcements, Wii U, it was very clear to us, and almost screamed in our face, that third-party support is front and centre of Nintendo's message this time round, with Nintendo even releasing a press release after the trailer listing all of the third parties who are supposedly working on projects for the Nintendo Switch. We all know this is a far cry from the state of the Wii U, which during its lifetime received extremely little or next to nothing from third-party developers, and the console sales were entirely reliable on Nintendo first-party titles. It was even worse for RPG fans such as ourselves, with the Wii U receiving an absolutely measly amount of RPG titles, between 6 to 10 depending on what you define as an RPG. I think it's pretty safe to say the only real RPGs we did receive were Xenoblade Chronicles X and Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE. Now, this easily is enough evidence to doom Nintendo in the eyes of RPG fans forever, and doesn't give us much hope for a big turnaround when it comes to the Nintendo Switch. But if we look at the list of third-party developers and publishers that are supposedly working on projects for the Nintendo Switch, then the future of RPGs on a Nintendo console could be quite bright. This promise can be backed up a little bit by Nintendo's handheld, the 3DS, which has a wealth of third-party developer support, and in 2016 alone received over 30 brand new RPGs for the system, including excellent titles such as Monster Hunter Generations, Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, Bravely Second, and even Dragon Quest VII. But what can we realistically expect from the Nintendo Switch or begin to hope for when it comes to RPGs? Well, let's look at Nintendo's actual third-party list and start with the obvious. One of the biggest surprises about the Nintendo Switch announcement trailer was that one of the games featured in the video was Skyrim, more than likely the upcoming remaster. Although Bethesda were quick to say this wasn't an official announcement of Skyrim being on the Switch, I think due to it being in the video, it's more than likely going to appear. Now, this is good news from a third-party standpoint, and although it's a 5-year-old game, it does mean we could potentially see future Elder Scrolls entries being released on the console, as well as the PS4 and Xbox One. If Bethesda are happy to port the remaster of Skyrim to the console, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to think that a port of Fallout 4 could also be on the cards. Now, we do know that the Wii U did receive some ports of some rather large titles, such as Deus Ex Human Revolution, Batman Arkham City, and even Mass Effect 3. So even with a large title such as Skyrim, it's not necessarily a guaranteed success in terms of third party for the Nintendo Switch. But let's look back at the third party list again. Now, you'll notice we have some pretty big Japanese developers such as Capcom, Koei Tecmo, and From Software. Now, when it comes to early on in a system's lifetime, we tend to see a lot of ports or new titles in an already established franchise. We never really see an abundance of new IPs. Capcom aren't known too much for making RPGs, but we've recently seen titles such as Dragon's Dogma, and here in Japan, we have Dragon's Dogma Online. A cost-effective port of such a title could be possible, and similar stuff from both Koei Tecmo and From Software could happen too, with potential ports of Dark Souls 3 or even a Dark Souls collection, as well as Koei Tecmo bringing Nioh to the Nintendo Switch as well. When you start to think about these types of games coming to the Nintendo Switch, you start to see the potential for RPGs coming through on the system. But I've yet to address what I consider to be the big three. The three third-party developers that, if truly got behind Nintendo and their new system, could make it the console to own if you're a fan of RPGs. The big three are Square Enix, Atlus, and of course 3DS Kings Level 5, three of the biggest exporters of RPGs in the games industry. Now, starting with Square Enix, I think it will be obvious to anyone about what potentially could feature on the Nintendo Switch. We're now only a month out from the release of Final Fantasy 15, with it coming to the PS4 and Xbox One. It's going to be one of Square Enix's biggest titles ever, and they're pushing for it to be as widespread as possible, including a PC version of the game in development scheduled to be released after the initial PS4 and Xbox One versions. I can't imagine Square Enix passing up the opportunity for a version of Final Fantasy 15 as a launch title for the Nintendo Switch. This is also without mentioning that by the time Final Fantasy VII HD Remake is released, the Nintendo Switch might have already been on store shelves for quite a while, meaning that the Switch could potentially be the second Nintendo console Cloud will have appeared on. Square Enix also own Tokyo RPG Factory, a studio dedicated entirely to making RPGs. Not only is Square Enix down on Nintendo's third-party list, but Tokyo RPG Factory are as well as a separate entity, meaning that they might already be working on a new project for the system. Next up is Atlus, developers of the Shin Megami Tensei series. This is already a no-brainer, as Nintendo and Atlus already have a pretty good relationship, and we've seen 3DS titles such as Shin Megami Tensei 4 and Apocalypse, as well as Persona Q. Nintendo and Atlus also partnered up to create one of the Wii U's only RPGs, Tokyo Mirage Sessions Sharp FE. And with Atlus's highly anticipated title Persona 5 releasing next February, we could potentially see a version of that game appear on the Nintendo Switch quite easily, especially if the specs of the system match those that have been rumoured, and it's able to potentially keep up in power with the Xbox One, meaning a gorgeous game like Persona 5 could run very smoothly and anywhere. The final developer of my big three is the aforementioned kings of the 3DS, Level 5. The developers of titles such as Yokai Watch, Inazuma 11, Fantasy Life, and Ni no Kuni are one of Nintendo's closest partners. And with Nintendo eventually phasing out the 3DS to bring in the portability of the Nintendo Switch, Level 5 will be looking for a new market to dominate. With Level 5 having created some of the 3DS's biggest titles, I imagine both Nintendo and Level 5 are in talks to bring a title such as Yokai Watch, which is really big here in Japan, to the system as well as a version of Ni no Kuni 2. Although a Nintendo console didn't receive the console version of the original Ni no Kuni, Japanese players did receive this version of Ni no Kuni for the Nintendo DS. As you can see, the list is already incredibly promising for fans of RPGs, and Nintendo have done extremely well to secure this many third-party developers already. Imagine a system where you can play Final Fantasy 15 or Persona 5 anywhere, and also have the ability to play ports of games like Dark Souls 3 and Nioh. The potential is there. Obviously, none of this is confirmed, and this is all our own speculation, but for Nintendo to really hit a home run with RPG fans, these are certainly steps they can work towards. This is also without us even beginning to mention some of the other third-party developers who are on the list. Developers such as Nipponichi Software, developers of the Disgaea series, Marvelous Incorporate, who are responsible for Story of Seasons and also Rune Factory, as well as Spike Chunsoft, the developers of Danganronpa. We've also neglected to even begin to mention Nintendo themselves. With the 3DS eventually being phased out for the Nintendo Switch's portability, we might see titles such as Fire Emblem, or if we're lucky, Advance Wars, as well as, the Mario and Luigi RPG games on the system as well. The Wii U may have soured Nintendo's relationship with RPG players and some hardcore gamers, but the promise of this third-party list and the games that they develop is incredibly exciting. The Nintendo Switch, hardware-wise, looks extremely promising, but we all know that a games console is only ever as good as the games that get released on it. While the Nintendo Switch does look promising, unfortunately, only time will tell. What do you think? Are you even excited about the Nintendo Switch? Do you reckon that some of the titles I've even mentioned in today's video will actually make it on the Nintendo Switch? Let us know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Don't forget to like and share this video, as well as click that subscribe button to check out all the amazing interviews, previews and reviews we have on the RPG Site YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to visit our actual site, rpgsite.net, and you can follow us on Twitter at rpgsite. You can also follow me, Liam Edwards, on Twitter as well, at LiamBME. Thank you for watching today's video, and I hope to see you again next time. Goodbye!